There's a very particular kind of exhaustion, and it's never the exhaustion of doing too little. The journaling, the therapy, the shadow work, the morning routines, the constant and diligent effort of becoming a better version of ourselves. And yet somehow you're still searching. But what if the search itself is the problem or becomes the problem? There's a Buddhist parable that I read recently on Tim Ferriss's blog that really stuck out to me. And it goes something like this. The old master points to a big boulder and asks the disciple, "See that large rock over there?" "Yes," says the disciple. "Do you think it's heavy?" continues the master. "Yes, it's very heavy," replies the student. "Only if you pick it up," smiles the master. How many of us are walking around carrying rocks we never had to pick up? And how has self-help, with its best intentions, taught us to pick up more? Of course, the irony here is that so far my channel has been dedicated to self-help. I am by no means a stranger to working on oneself. In fact, I've been doing it for nearly 2 decades. But like anything else, there's a lot of nuance in this topic. So let's explore the self-help trap, how to stop the searching, and what happens when we finally put the boulders down. The self-help industry is worth nearly $50 billion, and the self-help books published has nearly tripled since the year 2000. So why are so many of us still searching, feeling more confused, disconnected, and unfulfilled than ever? I tried to read the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying when I was 14 years old. I was always searching for the next book, the next podcast, the next aha moment to better understand myself and to get out of my own way. By the age that my prefrontal cortex has fully developed, I've had about a decade of learning and experimenting under my belt. It was never enough. I was insatiable. Because in a way, having more and more self-awareness was an unconscious drive to gain more control. And it also sometimes meant having the illusion of being able to fix a situation or a relationship that was outside of my control. Because if I could magically grow beyond whatever this problem is, then I could bend reality to my will. You become aware of how your childhood wounds and all the shocks and challenges in your life has shaped you, made you the person that you are today. You can see it so clearly, yet you still can't seem to drink your own medicine. You look wise beyond your years, yet behind closed doors, we think if people saw the real us, they would be appalled by just how broken we still actually are. And I don't think this is just my story. This is the self-help paradox. The more aware we become, the more there is to fix. The more you learn, the longer the list gets. And we become not less critical of ourselves and others, but more. And we're not any more at peace than we were before. In fact, we are at war internally, but just with a much better vocabulary. We can become these experts at scanning for issues and imperfections and wounds and patterns, being able to communicate it very clearly, yet unable to truly digest and synthesize and move forward. So why do we keep searching? Doing the work can sometimes give us the illusion of having agency and control over things that are otherwise uncontrollable. For example, other people, the past, and basically the mystery of being alive. I firmly believe that doing the work of healing ourselves and learning about ourselves is incredibly beneficial and helpful and necessary. But this illusion of a healed and perfect person gets shattered when we find ourselves engaged with another person who does not meet our expectations, who does not conform or speak our language, or meet our level of healedness. Sometimes we find ourselves triggered back into a less desirable version of ourselves from the past. And then we head back to the bookshelves, hoping to discover another layer of our own imperfection so that we can fix the situation and steer it back towards our desired outcome. Mistakenly empowered, in some cases, to think that I can do it all, when in fact we're engaged with life and other people in relationship, more than just us. And the truth is that for a lot of people underneath doing this work and healing was simply someone who didn't want to feel what they were feeling anymore, using the mind to avoid the heart. I was one of those kids that family members told, "You're too sensitive." Yet one day in my late 20s, I found myself typing in TikTok, "movies that make you cry." I had gotten so good at intellectualizing everything that I was emotionally constipated. It was like I was armored with this bulletproof defense mechanism. And that very sensitivity and emotional fluidity that made me who I was, that was conditioned out of me, became the missing piece. We live in a culture that rewards analysis, and we mistake articulation with feeling. We can describe our trauma with perfect clarity and still be completely imprisoned by it. Instead of picking up another book or listening to another podcast, when was the last time you sat with the discomfort of your own feelings, allowing them to just exist without fighting it or resisting it or trying to quiet them? Have you unintentionally started to soothe an uncomfortable experience by attempting to just understand it more, learn more about it? That intellectualizing becomes almost a comfort zone, a safety net, and a distraction in a way. Have you tried to explain something away instead of offering the actual attention or attentiveness and presence that parts of you are most needing, just for you to sit with something? I know I'm definitely guilty, and I've found myself in a yes in all of those questions at one point or another. So instead of being stuck in this pattern of fixing and looking for more problems to fix, how do we reorient ourselves back more towards aliveness? One of the simplest ways is to obsess over something else. Give yourself the opportunity to obsess or devote yourself to something that actually lights you up and brings lightness and joy into your life. Something that makes you lose track of time and fall back in love with the activity of doing and being, not because you're trying to become a better person, but because it sparks your curiosity, makes you feel more like yourself. I decided to start taking a class on Skillshare on documentary filmmaking. Okay, my first job was working at a movie theater, and they played only foreign and independent films. So I was like a film snob. I dreamed of making movies someday. Taking this class for me is, in a way, dipping my toes back into reigniting that dream. I really appreciate that it's broken into 52 short, digestible lessons that takes me through the entire roadmap of making a documentary.
Skillshare has creative classes taught by world-class creatives like professional illustrators, renowned graphic designers, and successful entrepreneurs. It's the best place to learn a creative skill or pick up a new hobby. And if you're looking to reconnect with your creativity, Skillshare is where humans come to learn from other humans.
Let your natural curiosity bring more colors back into your life instead of this one singular color of focus. It helps you get into a mode of actually experiencing versus incessant self-analysis. Thank you, Skillshare, for sponsoring today's video, and if you want to try it for yourself, you can either scan the QR code right here or check out the links in my description. And the first 500 people to use my link will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Something else is to start tuning into the frequency or moving from a place of being a witness and a friend versus a fixer or an enforcer. It's a little sad and ironic how oftentimes the things and treatment and experiences that we demand from other people or life are things that we have not given to ourselves. Compassion, curiosity, respect, presence, prioritization, adventure. When was the last time you gave yourself any of those things or put yourself in an environment which these things can be fostered? And at the foundation of a lot of our fears, very commonly, are fears of rejection and fears of abandonment. Yet the way we approach this healing or a personal growth journey can actually read a lot like self-rejection and self-abandonment. Instead of doing the work on focusing how I can become the better or best version of myself, which I never really understood that, because it's as if there is this pinnacle that we hit and then it's all perfect. The question here is not how do I become a better version of myself, but how do I become a more vibrant and whole version of myself? And what are some things that I have been asking the universe, the world, other people for that I haven't really given myself? And if I am on the healing journey, how do I become that loving friend who is a witness, who says, I am here to be next to you. I am here to witness your pain. I don't need to fix you. That is often the most healing thing someone can do for us. It might seem like a paradox, but it is true what they say. The only way you can change is by first accepting. It's not in a sense of accepting defeat or that things will always be this way. Rather, it's more of a making contact with parts of yourself that you have rejected in the past and being with it in a way that is loving and warm and not needing it to be anything but what it is. And oftentimes, those parts of us that tend to react or behave in a way that isn't aligned with who we are or who we desire to be will oftentimes soften when we give it that loving presence, when we give it the things that it has been seeking for so long in the wrong places out there, when the whole time what it wanted was that from ourselves first. Get physical and touch grass. Incredible dedication to lock in and be disciplined is a very thin line away from isolation that becomes what feels comfortable and safe. We can think that we're leveling up by reading and learning or listening, but the real lessons can never be practiced unless you go outside into the real world and experiment with things that are uncomfortable and new in order to rewrite patterns. We can challenge our bodies, set goals, and make plans that take us outside of the confines of our mind. Healing is not just a intellectualization process, it's a feeling process, it's a embodied experience. I think sometimes we get so comfortable being alone and focusing on ourselves, doing the work, that we hesitate or refuse to even maintain friendships, or deferring to this saying, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. But life is rarely so black and white. Sayings like that one can accidentally become another way of us staying inside our comfort zone. Friendships and all relationships will sometimes require our sacrifice for us to show up outside of our own comfort zone and wants and needs to show up for someone else. Of course, if you err on the side of people pleasing and always doing what other people want, that segment was not for you. I think one of the reasons why self-help has turned us more isolated and confused than ever is this hyperfixation on independence and self-orientation. Self-actualization becomes the ceiling that we meet in self-help, but self-transcendence, the going beyond the self entirely, may actually be the next stop, if you will. Actualization is becoming the best version of yourself, and the other is about moving beyond ourselves entirely and back into the world, towards something bigger than us, whether it be connection, nature, creativity, or being in service for others, or sometimes for people it's faith. Again, I believe the application of self-help or personal growth or healing is incredibly meaningful and in many ways absolutely necessary. But perhaps after 2 decades of doing the work and picking up boulders and rocks of all shapes and sizes, I'm learning that the final boss lesson wasn't reaching the ultimate breakthrough that would fix everything, but learning how to stop looking for one. So where does that leave us now? I am not saying to throw away the books, cancel the therapy, or stop doing the work. However, if the work of healing or bettering yourself is making you become more isolated, more critical, and convinced that you're broken, then it might have become the trap. As cliche as it sounds, the goal isn't to arrive at a perfectly optimized and healed version of ourselves, but using self-help as a tool to first better understand our origins, the stories we tell ourselves. Why are we telling them? Where did those stories come from? How are we able to start rewriting them? We do the work at all so we can live more fully, be more engaged and in relationship with life itself, with people, with the things that we choose to experience or pursue, to feel more deeply, to connect wider, and to be more present with what is right in front of us. So sometimes that requires doing the work. And other times it requires you to put the work down entirely, to go outside, feel the wind on your face. Go make something, learn something, call up a friend, and sometimes to sit with uncomfortable feelings instead of analyzing them. It's more like seasons. I love using seasons. There's a season for going inward, for deep reflection, and there's a season to put the boulders down. As a funny, ironic outro, if you're interested in any of my offers, as I mentioned before, I've definitely been on this journey of wanting to, so many iterations of doing the work and finding different modalities and methods and experimenting, learning that while I am still on the journey, I have a much better zoomed out picture and be able to apply a sense of more easefulness versus kind of pushing a boulder up the hill, so to speak. If you are interested in any of my offerings, you can check them out at diagen.com. I understand intimately well what it's like to hyper intellectualize things. So if anything that I've said today resonated with you, feel free to check those things out, and I will see you in the next video.